Understanding the mental anguish or the emotional trauma in a character is often difficult enough to visualize in film. The actor's performance must be practiced, the director must be clear, the editing needs to be logical, and the designs must also be meaningful. So when the HSC asks my students to explore how a text might give us an insight into the paradoxes and inconsistencies of human behavior, well, let's just say as a teacher, that's pretty hard, even for the most adept of directors. Let's try anyway. Hi, I'm Sir Pepi, and welcome to Room A7.
I think it's Wednesday, the evening, this westward.
So let's take a look at how a film can show paradoxes and inconsistencies in human behavior really poorly. One of my favorite examples to explain this is pretty much every single Bond girl in every single Bond film. The majority of them tag along with Bond like a surprised puppy with Stockholm Syndrome. Even the most well-written of all the Bond girls still just shifts from heartless traitor to tragic love interest. Even the cookie-cutter Bond received a better treatment of human growth, inconsistent with his traditional depiction of a heartless killer. This scene was good, really good, but at the expense of a really weird character change to try and depict Eva Green as some kind of complicated character, which she is, but it's not handled well in this scene. So how does Daldry show us, visually, the paradoxes of human behavior? Well, the most obvious way is through the writing, character growth. Most good characters eventually transition over time into some kind of realization, some kind of emotional breakdown or triumph. They either admit that they were wrong or hurriedly undo the damage that they have caused. Some characters don't grow or refuse to evolve, and that's okay too.
Dad, you can't go back, not now! Look at this chaos, man! What have we got to offer that poor son? Can't do this! Not now! Not after all this time! Not after everything we've been through! It's my wee bullet! He may be a fucking genius for all we know! For fuck's sake, Dad, you can't do this, man! Dad! Dad! He's only 11, for fuck's sake!
However, I think this is not enough to explore the idea of a paradox in human behavior. So I think the not-so-obvious way to examine the inconsistencies of human behavior is through the lens of the audience's visceral reaction. As a teacher, I always ask my students at the end of a film or a novel, was it a good ending for the character? In Billy Elliot's case, yes it was. Then I ask, did you agree with the ending? Again, most students will agree in the case of Billy Elliot. He has overcome barriers, discrimination, and stereotypes to reach his dreams. The film is not ambiguous with its ending and therefore guides our answer about how we are meant to feel about the film's journey. It is hard to disagree that they have lived happily ever after, because we know they do. So let's do a thought experiment. Let's imagine that the final scene did not show us Billy all grown up. What would be missing from the message? Would the ending be happily ever after? Would you feel that Billy has finally let his past treatment go? You see, without the final scene of Billy as an adult, the final montage is locked in the past. It never moves into the future. Billy Elliot is literally stuck as a child, his family only starting to warm to the idea that he could be a dancer. Billy's immediate future is bright, but his future after that? That's ambiguous. With the final scene of a much older Billy, Daldry has turned a simple montage into a journey through time. We assume growth. We as an audience assume wounds have been healed, and we can finally feel that our journey has taken us through time and space to this very moment. The final scene also has many more layers. It combines several visual techniques that resolves several plot lines. When Michael recognizes Tony, we get the Kuleshov effect. Michael is shocked and then pleasantly surprised to see Tony. Simultaneously, the same effect is used to show Tony recoil when he recognizes Michael. We immediately assume Tony's disgust, but instead it's surprise, and the reaction is no longer sinister as it would have been before. And this is our first clue that time has moved farther into the future. I think this moment is a perfect example of both composition and the Kuleshov effect. We both read each character's reactions. We cut back and forth in a two-shot, maintaining stability, but both characters are framed in a way that they actually look away from each other. While Tony has moved forward in time and is civil, Tony does not completely see eye to eye with Michael, even though that Tony has come to support his brother. This moment is, for me, the best example I can see that demonstrates the paradox and inconsistencies of human behaviour, challenging the audience to see the world a little bit differently. I'm Sir Pepi, and this is Room A7.